Hello, Mr. Sudarshan.
Hello.
Welcome to Ambassador International Academy.
We have grade 9 students interested in learning about artificial intelligence.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. So, how do we go about?
So, we would like to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
And I think he's going to start with the first question.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure, go for the first question.
Okay. Hello, sir. My first question is, what is GenAI?
Okay. So, I'm assuming that you already know about what is AI. We'll make that assumption. So, given AI is a methodology with which you give the ability to take decisions to a thing or a person by putting that thing into artificial experiences, right? So anything that has the ability to take decisions can be deemed intelligent. So artificial intelligence is all about making things that are not naturally intelligent, but by imparting experiences on it, you make it artificially intelligent. So moving on to generative AI. So generative AI is an application of AI, right? It's not a technology by itself. It's an application of AI where we use AI agents to generate new content. So what I mean by content here, so it could be, content could be text, it could be images, it could be videos, it could be audio, right? Any content that humans enjoy consuming, right? So an AI agent or an AI system or an AI software which has the ability to generate content is called as generative AI, equipment, agent, you name it. So generative AI by itself is not a technology. It is an application of AI for generating content. So the GPTs that you people have already experienced, it is able to generate what type of content? It is generating text content. And there are GPTs which can generate images for whatever instruction that you supply. So then it becomes an image generating AI agent. So for that matter, if the AI agent is able to speak back with you, then it is generating speech content. And there are a lot of tools. When you give an instruction, it can also generate a video for you, right? So there is a popular software called Sora, S-O-R-A. Just search for Sora in YouTube, you will see Sora generated videos. So those videos are not doctored, they are generated by an AI agent and they will look very convincing, right? To be, I mean, it's like a animation movie, right? Those videos will look like animation movies and it will be very convincing, but there was zero human labor in it. Right? Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go on.
How does ChatGPT understand our inputs?
Yeah, so ChatGPT is one example of a generative AI machinery, right? So ChatGPT allows you to give your inputs via text. It also allows you to input images, documents. You can submit PDF files. You can also give URLs of a website. And lots of inputs it allows you to supply. So what it does is, ChatGPT originally was a text understanding model. So in the machine learning world or in the AI world, we call that as the large language models. Have you heard of this term?
Yeah,
LLMs, yeah?
Yeah.
So let's dig in a little bit. So what is a language? So what does it take to learn a new language? There are only two aspects of a language, right? To understand the basics. The first thing is you need to know the vocabulary of the language. You need to know the words which are there in the language. And secondly, you need to know the grammar of how do you chain those words to make a sentence. The third level comes the semantics. Semantics means meaning. But if you want to write something, you don't have to, it need not be semantically correct, but you can frame a sentence, right? You can frame a sentence as long as you understand the vocabulary of a language and you also understand the grammar of the language, right? So a language model tries to learn these two components. That is all it does. So it tries to learn the grammar piece and the vocabulary piece from large volumes of input. That input could be volumes of web pages, could be extracts of PDFs, could be extracts of books, articles, you name it, anything that you find in the internet today. All these are text information predominantly and images lately, right? It used to be 99% text, now it has probably become 60% text and 40% imagery, right? All these data can be processed by a technique, let's say. So LLM models aim to learn the language from the text with zero human inputs. So if you, let's say if you pass texts coming from Arabic language, right, you can make a machine learn Arabic even when the person who built the model does not understand Arabic. It's magic, right?
Yeah.
It looks like magic, right?
Yeah.
So you
It's
can
scary.
make...
It looks a bit scary.
You should not be scared. Yeah, don't worry about that. So the idea is to understand a language. You really do not know. You really do not need a teacher. All you need is a lot of data. So if you know to identify the words, right, you can probably remember the vocabulary just by looking at those words, and you can also learn the grammar by looking at how these words are chained together, right? So in English grammar you study subject verb object, which is also called the grammar. So you don't frame it as subject object verb, but in Indian languages you always frame it that way, subject object verb. Yeah, if you take Arabic you write it in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Right? So these are language specific traits, and you don't have to explicitly educate a machine about this grammar and the vocabulary. If you supply lots of data to the machine, it will learn the language automatically. So that's the idea of LLMs. So ChatGPT was originally a large language model, and it was originally designed only to understand text. So what do we mean by understanding text here? So I'll give you an example. Let's say there are two sentences. Alpha, beta, gamma. I'm just making it up. It's gibberish, okay? And I'm giving you another sentence which is alpha, beta, delta. Is that a language? I just said gibberish. But if I ask you this question, what is the similarity between these two sentences? Can you answer it? The first sentence had alpha, beta, gamma. The second sentence had alpha, beta, delta. What is the similarity between these two sentences? What can you guess?
The second sentence had delta.
Yeah, so?
Both the sentences had alpha and beta.
So
there's some sort of connection between those?
Yeah, that's all. In fact, in the machine learning world, whatever you said is called the checkered similarity.
Checkered similarity.
Checkered similarity. It's a metric to measure the similarity between two sentences. So you looked at alpha, beta, gamma, alpha, beta, delta. So how many words are there? Unique words. There are 4 unique words, right? Alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. Of these 4 unique words, which constitute the vocabulary of a language, right? And of these 4 words, there are 2 words which are common across these two sentences. So I can argue that sentence 1 and sentence 2 are 50% similar. Can I argue?
Yes.
Do I have to understand the language?
No.
Now you understood the magic. You get it?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is how ChatGPT understands what you type in. So it does not really try to understand the English of it, or the French of it, or the German of it, or the Arabic of it. No, it is not doing it. It is using some sort of similarity metric like Checkered similarity. ChatGPT does not use Checkered similarity, by the way. It uses a very complex similarity measure. So it uses a similarity measure like that to make sense of what you have typed in against what it remembers already. So consider your input as one sentence. Consider whatever it remembers has a whole lot of sentences. Imagine that. So all you are doing is doing comparison. So if I am able to compare the input to something that I already remember, can I argue that I have understood your question?
Yeah.
In some sense, I have understood your question. That is how ChatGPT operates. So ChatGPT is not a grammar teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Convincing?
Yep.
And to be honest, this is not magic. And whatever similarity measure that we talked about, you understand sets, right?
Yeah.
You understand sets, intersection of a set, union of a set. You understand? Sets, I'm sure you will understand. No?
A little bit.
Little bit, okay. So Checkered similarity is defined as the ratio of intersection over union. So alpha, beta, gamma, delta, that's a union of four words. That's the union, right?
Yeah.
And intersection is alpha and beta. So on the numerator you have the size of the intersection. In the denominator you have the size of the union. So it's a mathematical equation.
Yeah.
Now are you able to connect
Yeah.
the dots between what you study and what math is?
Yeah.
So math is crucial here. So the more the math you enjoy, the better the engineer, the better the scientist you become. Yeah, moving on. What's the
Okay.
next question?
So I feel like this is connected to AI,
Okay.
but I don't really understand the meaning of this term. Neural network, what does that mean?
Okay. So neural networks is one technique under a portfolio of techniques called machine learning. So there is a technology called machine learning, right? So let's call it a portfolio of techniques. Portfolio, you understand? It's a collection,
Yeah.
right? So in those collection, there is one technique called neural networks. So the beauty of neural networks, or the motivation behind the neural networks, is to mimic how our brain is organized. So we understand that brain is not made of muscles. Do you know that? Do you know that already?
No.
Okay, it's not called brain muscle, right?
Yeah.
So it's a blob of neurons. Nerves. It's a blob of nerves. You know what? If someone does a brain surgery, you don't need anesthesia.
That's true.
Yeah? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
You don't need any anesthesia.
Because you don't feel anything.
There is no sensor to feel it. See,
Because you can't process the pain.
no, there is no sensor to accept that input. So if you touch my brain, I will not even know that you are touching my brain. See, if I touch your skin, I know that if you touch my skin, I know that you are touching my skin because my skin is a sensor.
Yeah.
But on the brain, there is no sensor.
Yeah.
But the irony here is, the sense of touch that I get in the skin is processed by that. But that guy does not have any sensor. It's a very interesting design. So the brain is organized as a blob of neurons or a bunch of neurons intertwined so much. This is coming from the biology, right? When mathematicians saw this, they wanted to create an equivalent of that. So the original goal was to create a computer it's not a computer, let's say they wanted to create a machine which is an equivalent of a brain. That was the original motivation. This happened probably 50 years back, not any time recent, right? So they wanted to create an equivalent of the brain, and what they found is, through the doctors, they found that the brain is a blob of neurons. So let us try to create an equivalent of the neurons mathematically. So a neural network is called the mathematical model of a brain. Yeah, but not exactly a human brain, let's say a very micro brain. So every neural network is constituted as a replica of a tiny brain.
Yeah.
So that is why we still have that neural word in it. Yeah, because it was inspired by how the neurons are connected with each other. So you have a neuron which looks like a thread, and the end of the thread can be attached with several other neurons, and that connection is called a synapse, right? One thread can attach to multiple threads can attach to multiple threads, and they can also connect with each other. It's like a mesh, right? So the equivalent mathematical model for the brain organization is called the neural network. And so this is the inspiration, this is how it was inspired, but you had to put that to use. So apply the mathematical formulation on top of the model, and now this model becomes trainable, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you give this neural network structure, assign a task to this structure, give the data, which is the experiences, and this neural network will learn to process that text, process the data to learn about that task, and also it masters it. So ChatGPT or anything that we are using today are all powered by neural networks, but very massive ones. Not a tiny brain anymore, it's a slightly larger brain now we are looking at. So neural network is the fundamental building block of today's AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my question is, will AI take away all human jobs?
I don't think it is going to take away all human jobs. It may probably displace the jobs. See, what I mean by displacement is, see, there used to be a time when we had people who does typewriting. Whatever you do in your keyboard, there were large machines, right, where you feed a paper. There'll be a keypad with buttons, and you just press the button, and the letter appears on the paper, right? So there were people who were doing only this typing as a job, right? And that job is not there anymore because typewriters don't exist. Does that mean the human life has ended? No. The typewriters have become someone else, right? So that's called job displacement, right? Whatever job that they were doing previously, that job is transforming into some other job. So the human who was doing typewriting job previously is doing some other job equivalent to that, probably scaled up a little bit. But there is one catch here. The catch is, let's say if the typewriter, whoever was typewriting, denied to upskill himself or herself, what will happen then?
They will be fired from the job.
Not just fired, they cannot do any other job because they do not know anything else. So it is absolutely necessary to keep yourself skilled up all the time. Right? You cannot settle with one skill. You cannot settle with few skills. You should keep enhancing your skills. So we call it the upskilling. We also use another word called reskilling. So a typewriter becoming a data entry operator is reskilling because they are not learning anything new. Only the machine has changed from typewriting machine to computer keyboard. So it is called reskilling. It's not upskilling, right? So there used to be people who are documentation experts, right? You give them a narrative, they'll give you a nice article. They will type a nice article for you. Today, who's doing the job?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is doing the job, isn't it? I don't have to hire a content creator. I don't have to hire a creative writer. I don't need that. If I supply the cues, ChatGPT is able to generate nice content to me, and I'm able to go forward with that. So what is happening to those creative writers? Are they losing their lives? No. If they upskill themselves or if they reskill themselves, they can easily find another job where they will do great. So the key here is your willingness to put yourself into another round of training. Trainable.
Yeah.
Right? So this is something I want you guys to imbibe in your hearts. So learning never ends.
Okay.
Right? Learning never stops. I'm 46 years old. I still study. I read a book every day. I read a lot of material every day. I read. Right? I don't use ChatGPT at all. I hate it, of course. But I don't use it at all. See, learning never stops. So as long as you are willing to learn, as long as you have a good mentor to support you, your learning is guaranteed to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so focus on that. So always be willing to learn. Yeah. What's the next question?
So I was just thinking about this Neuralink, neural network. Does that Neuralink chip have to do anything with this? Because it was like some,
Developed by Elon Musk.
yeah.
Yeah, see, if you ask me to answer this question honestly, I would say I don't like the idea of Neuralink because see, simply put, I believe human intelligence is capable of doing a lot more, right? And I think we should not lose that. So I think we should focus on the first principles and start inculcating and developing human intelligence more. So AI is cool. I don't disagree. I mean, it's a great tech. I mean, as long as AI stays as my assistant, I am so willing to adapt it. But I don't want. I want to be one step ahead of AI. Otherwise, I become irrelevant. Am I not? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So your competition is not a fellow human being, unfortunately. So your competition is most likely an AI machine. Right? So it's absolutely necessary for us to stay up. See, Neuralink may help in a lot of scenarios which are medically motivated. Let's say if someone has Alzheimer's, there's a condition called Alzheimer's, right? So for such patients, Neuralink is an amazing thing. It's a great technology to adapt. But for normal human beings, I think no thanks. Yeah. So, see, adding and putting an add-on in my brain to enhance my brain essentially tells that my brain is useless,
Yeah.
isn't it? And I don't want to believe that. I believe that my brain is still useful, and I will ensure that it stays useful.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can Neuralink damage your brain in any
You
way?
don't know. It is work in progress. It is work in progress. It has not been approved yet. It is still a research work, and I don't know whether they will get an FDA approval.
I think they got FDA approval.
Not for implementation, I guess.
So they've done it on one person.
For one
already.
person also.
See, that's called one level of human testing, right? So there's a clinical trial. So there's several levels of clinical trial before it goes to the public. So now that the situation is different in the US, things can happen faster. But I wish it does not. I wish it does not. At least for the normal humans. For assisted, for people who require assistance, brain level assistance, welcome. I welcome that. But for normal human beings, Neuralink like ideas, I am not a big fan.
So I have a question. Like, can Neuralink become like a smartphone? Like everybody has a Neuralink in the future.
You don't need a smartphone then, right? You can talk from one neural link to another neural link. Why do you need a smartphone then?
In the future, like then.
In the future, that's why.
Yeah, like if we went from the telephone to the cell phone to the smartphone, can we go to the Neuralink?
Why
Like,
not? See, if Neuralink has a transmitter which can reach out people in the next 50 kilometers radius, I don't need a cell phone. I just think you will know.
Yeah.
Right? And you think I will know.
Yeah.
But I am going to be crowded with lots of thinking, man. How do I control? And if I don't want to speak to anyone, I can turn off the phone and go to a quiet room. But if can I be quiet if I install Neuralink?
No.
Impossible.
Your brain will shut off.
Yeah, so you understand why I hate it. Yeah, because I lose autonomy of my life.
Yeah.
See, autonomy is me able to take decisions for myself. That's called autonomy. When if Neuralink is going to overrule my decisions, I am
Autonomous.
not living my life. Someone is making. I become a puppet.
A robot.
Puppet. Worse than that. Right? I become a puppet,
Being controlled.
and I don't want to be. I don't want to be someone's puppet. I still believe I have value, and let me work on that, please. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
So related to this, what are the dangers of AI also, apart from like
See,
losing jobs?
okay, it shouldn't be understood that way. See, it's like a very powerful tool. Okay, it's a very powerful tool. Consider a very sharp katana knife or katana sword, right? If it's in the hand of a master, a teacher, that teacher is going to propagate katana's knowledge to a lot of students in a very constructive way. But if it goes into a hand of a person who wants to do wrongdoings, what is going to happen? So do you blame the katana or do you blame the person who's holding the
The
katana?
person.
The person.
Precisely the point.
Yeah.
So AI is not to be blamed. It's all about how you want to take AI forward, right? What do you want to do with it, right? And if you want to build amazing constructive stories with it, great. I have been building it for the past 25 years. And there has been multiple times in my life where I have said, no, I will not build this for you.
Yeah.
Right? We had a lot of requests for building products which can be sold for very large amounts of money. But I thought building such products are not the right thing. It's unethical, immoral, but of course legal. It's legally correct.
But it could be used for something wrong.
It can go wrong. It can make things wrong for a lot of in a lot of use cases. So I said no. So I will not build a technology which will be abused in the future. I don't want to build technology which will be abused in the future. I better stay quiet. I don't want to build the technology. Right? So whatever technologies that I've built in my life have always been put to real use, good use.
Yeah.
I ensure that. And if my work is put for wrong use, then I feel responsible for that. Much like what the atom bomb inventor thought after the atom bombs were invented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a question. Can I avoid AI in the world of AI?
absolutely. Sure. Why not? You can avoid. See, for living a normal life, you don't need anything extra, right? I'll give you a simple thought experiment. What happens if there is no power for 2 months?
No power.
No electricity. Yeah.
It will be difficult for like the first 5 to 10 days, but after that we will get used to it. In my
Yeah, but what happened to the AI?
There will be no.
Everything just stops.
Yeah. So see, if you had carried the survival skills in you, you will be able to survive. But let's say if you are a very gadgety person or a very networked person, you go nuts. You go nuts really. See, this happened to a lot of people during COVID shutdown. They were like party animals. Okay, a lot of people who lived a party animal life, and when everything shut down, they went nuts.
Yeah.
Because they were not able to talk to anyone, they were not able to, no, talking of course was allowed, they were not able to go out anywhere.
Or to meet
so
anyone.
Yeah, so these are social animals, right? So they got really cranky during that time. So my simple thought experiment is, the more the dependence I build on technology that requires power, the more vulnerable I become. Because if there is no power, no internet for a couple of months, my life is doomed if I depend only on that. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So in my place, people order food all the time, right? They don't see the restaurant could be probably 100 meters away or maybe 50 meters away, but still people make orders. They'll order the food, maybe because the delivery charges were waived off or whatever. So they forgot the idea of going to a restaurant, sitting there, placing an order, eating there, right, paying it off and coming back. They forgot that idea. So people argue that it's a convenience thing, it's available, why not use it? But in my mind, convenience versus correctness, you cannot compromise.
Yeah.
Convenience and correctness cannot be traded off.
So you become like more dependent on technology.
Yeah, see, tomorrow if I cannot order food, or what will happen to me? I do not know how to order food after going to a restaurant. I forget that skill, isn't it? So see, it's not a short-term problem, it's a long-term problem. I'm very worried that you have already adopted ChatGPT for your learning, which I'm very, very worried about. Because if you are dependent on ChatGPT today for your knowledge requirements, you will forget how to read material from textbooks. You will forget how to read material from articles, because you get the gist from ChatGPT all the time. So eventually you will lose the trait of consuming volumes of data and shrinking it into a summary. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So there are a lot of computer programmers who use GPTs to generate code. If code is generated by a machinery, you forget coding. Then why should an employer pay you the salary? They may as well pay a license fee to ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
So your purpose goes kaput. What is my purpose? It goes kaput.
So you will have no purpose in life.
Yeah, it's going to be depression, my friend.
Yeah.
See, if I don't have any purpose and I have nothing to deliver, I have no value, it's going to turn out to be depression. Dangerous scenarios. So I'm not saying you should not use these tools. Use it consciously. Use it for the right scenarios. That is what you should think about. Right? Without thinking, without putting your mind into it, if you start becoming dependent on these technologies, you are subscribing to failure. Do you understand? It's not a scary proposition. I'm not scaring you. I'm giving you the facts. It's not going to hurt you today. But imagine 10 years down the line, you will forget, or you will not know how to learn material from, how to learn things from material, right? You do not know how to consume large volumes of data. That's going to put you in a very difficult situation. So don't lose your basic survival instincts, basic trainability instincts.
Yeah.
Stay up there. Yeah, so we'll pause now.
So sir, I had a question about what is prompt engineering?
Sure. So we looked at this use case called ChatGPT, right? So how did you communicate with ChatGPT? So you gave an instruction, and for that instruction, the machine is generating a response, right? That's how you talk. You continue the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So you continue with the next question that gives you a next answer, and you just go on. The way ChatGPT or any GPT for that matter operates is by maintaining something called a context. Okay. So let's say if I have a dialogue with you, okay, how are you today? You will answer. What did you have for breakfast? You will answer that question. But when you answer the second question, you're also keeping my first question and your answer in context. Yes.
Yes.
Are you able to appreciate that fact? So ChatGPT does exactly the same thing. So if you ask a question and to answer that question, it not only answers for that piece, it also answers with respect to what has been discussed already. So you may have had multiple conversations in the past before this particular question. So this question will be understood in the context of all the previous questions and answers.
Yeah, it actually says memory saved objects.
Yeah, no, that's a new feature.
Okay, the different jargons people use, but it's not really memory. I mean, GPTs are stateless machines. You understand what is stateless?
No.
Okay, so it is not supposed to remember anything. But what we do is, when you use this ChatGPT interface, right? You use a web application to talk to it. So the web application does the memorization part for you.
So not
So-
ChatGPT directly.
ChatGPT cannot remember anything. The context, the context, it cannot remember anything. So it is a stateless machine by design. So let's say you ask the first question, your ChatGPT application sends only the first question, and you get the first answer. For the second question, the ChatGPT application will send the first question, first answer, and the second question as an input to the system. Are you able to understand how they mimic the memory part, the context part? Right? This is how they do. So now the question is, the instruction that you give is also called the prompt. And so there are some special prompts which can change the behavior of the engine. Do you have dogs in your house? Have you seen dogs? I mean, have you seen dogs? Grown dogs?
Yeah.
So you talk to the dog, right?
Yeah.
And the dogs understand some of your instructions.
Yeah,
If you ask it to sit, they sit. If you ask it to stand up, they stand up. And if you ask it for a handshake, it actually does the handshake. But can you speak a different language and expect the dog to respond correctly?
No.
No.
Let's say you are seeing a new dog. It has been pre-trained already, but you do not know their pre-training. And it's a friendly dog. It won't bite you. Okay. So now you want to figure out which question is known to the dog or which command is known to the dog. How do you experiment and find out? How do you do that?
You say a list of words like say.
You basically try different commands and find out for which command the dog responds and for which it doesn't. Yes? You do that in real life, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's called prompt engineering. So you have a dog. I call ChatGPT as a dog. The dog is trained for some commands already, but I do not know those commands.
Yeah.
So I'm experimenting in a trial and error basis, figuring out for which question this dog is responding correctly, for which it doesn't.
Okay.
So you discover the instruction set. You are trying to discover the commands that the system would understand, and the process of discovery is called prompt engineering. But I don't agree to this term prompt engineering because it is not really engineering. Right? Anything to be called engineering should associate to some problem solving. Engineering is always about problem solving. In prompt engineering, you are not solving any problem. You are only doing guesswork.
Trial and error.
It is guesswork. Guesswork. Simply put, it is guesswork. Guesswork cannot be engineering. It is very, it would be an insult to engineering if you say engineering is guesswork. Because it's all about measurements and it's all about being objective and being systematic, right? Engineering is all about that. And you cannot attribute guesswork to be a trait of engineering. That's an insult to engineering. So I would never call prompt engineering as prompt engineering. Maybe you can call this as,
A command.
you are figuring out something. You are figuring out the commands these models understand. See, I showed you that there are multiple models that you can load, right? We have Gemma model, we have Llama, we have Mistral, we have ChatGPT, and various options, right? Each of these dogs will have different command sets.
Yeah.
So whatever prompt -- you discover with the ChatGPT may not work with Gemma, may not work with Gemini, may not work with Llama, may not work with Mistral. So you need to do the same experiment again to figure out what is their command set.
Yeah, so it takes a long time to
It's
figure out.
boring, it's very frustrating. It is very frustrating indeed, isn't it? So you need to do the discovery every time. And not only that, these models get revised every, let's say every month, every week, every quarter, they get revised. I mean, they replenish the model, they redo the model. Every time they redo the model, the prompts will also be re-engineered.
Yeah.
So you need to continue the discovery process for every revision they supply.
That's so confusing.
It's so weird. It's very demotivating, right?
You don't want to do it anymore.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to keep repeating it, right? If I want to solve a problem, I solve once and I be done with it. Let me be done with it. I want to solve the next problem. I don't want to keep digging on this again and again and again, right? That's very frustrating. So the act of figuring out the command set of a GPT system is called prompt. Right? So if someone is going to sell this idea to you and say that, okay, I'm going to train you on prompt engineering, please shy away from them. Because it's not a skill that you can do yourself, isn't it? Trial and error is not a skill.
Yeah.
Right? It's a backup until I figure it out. So if someone sells you this idea that I'm going to train you on prompt engineering, that prompt engineering job has a lot of prospects, please stay away from such people. Because it's a clear farce. It's a wrong statement. Don't acknowledge that. There's a lot of schools which are educating prompt engineering as a curriculum, as a course, which in my mind is conspiracy. Right? See, as a part of, there is an initiative called Responsible AI.
Yeah.
There's an initiative like that, right? I belong to that initiative also. So Responsible AI has some additional constraints on AI applications to stay fair, to be inclusive, right? To be ethically correct, morally correct. A lot of additional societal aspects have been put as constraints. See, in that angle, I am expecting, as a part of the responsible AI compliance, sooner or later, the model companies, the companies that own these models, will be mandated to publish their command set. You understand what I said?
Yeah.
So right now they are publishing the models, they are keeping the command set hidden. It's their intellectual property and they are asking you to figure it out yourself, isn't it? So that's how they can sell it as a product to you, prompt engineering as a product to you. You understand? So sooner or later, responsible AI initiatives will force the model publishers to also publish their command set, which means you have a German Shepherd and they are also telling you what are the commands the German Shepherd will understand. Right? You have a Sphinx and you know what are the commands it will understand. You have another breed of let's say a lion which understands a bunch of commands. Now you don't have to do prompt engineering, right? Because the command set is open to you. What will happen to prompt engineers then?
Jobless.
No, useless. Not jobless. They become useless because they put all the eggs in that basket, right? It's a problem. You understand where we are going? You get the idea, right?
Yeah.
So don't focus on these farce statements. Question everything. That should be your primary survival instinct. Question everything. Question everyone. Yeah. What's the next one?
Will humans and robots become the same? And furthermore, like self-driving cars, what are the other autonomous AI robotic opportunities?
Right. So I'm expecting that it is going to happen not in my lifetime but in your lifetime. So to answer your first part of the question, which is will machines and humans become one? That's a question, right? I think it will happen in your life, in your lifetimes, right? But it will not be scary or it will not be creepy. It will be so natural. So I'll give you an example, right? So right now, if a body part fails, let's say I have a broken hip, or let's say I have a broken knee, right? It's not fixable. So what do people do? They put artificial knees.
Prosthetic.
They put not prosthetics. Prosthetic is when your leg is amputated. This is a damaged joint. So if my shoulder is damaged, it's irreplaceable. It is irreparable. Then what I get is I get an artificial shoulder. I can get an artificial knee. I can get an artificial hip. These are all on the orthopedics, right? Now people use titanium to build those components, right? Few years back, I met a researcher. That guy is from Malaysia. So he was building artificial joints using chicken bone. See, all you need is calcium, right? So see, the bone is made of calcium.
Yeah.
Right. So you need calcium to be, synthesized in some form so that it shares the property of a human bone. Right. So what that guy did, see, the bones of any animal will have calcium. We have the similar structure. The chemical structure is very similar. So what that person was doing was a part of his PhD thesis several years back. So this guy was researching on synthesizing joints with chicken bone. He cannot synthesize with human bones. That will become a crime. Right? So that's why he was synthesizing it using chicken bones. If the idea succeeds, basic concept is you can synthesize human skeletal structure using animal parts.
Yeah.
And the very interesting side note here is, if that body part is fixed as a part of a human structure, the body part grows with the human structure.
So it
Because-
turns human.
It has become human.
Become part.
There is no difference between a synthetic body part generated using animal parts, and the human body. The human body is accepting that body part and allowing it to grow with it.
So it recognizes as one
It
of.
does not recognize. It sees that it is my part. It does not see the difference, right? So this is with the bones. The same story happens to liver. The same story happens to the heart. So today there are see, liver transplants. Have you heard of?
Yeah.
So liver is a very interesting body part, right? Even if you cut 70% of it, it will survive. And you can cut one person's liver and fix it into another person, and they both will survive. They can survive. Liver is a beautiful component that can work even if it is amputated, right? So, but if you look at hearts, artificial hearts, they are mechanical hearts today. But I am thinking in another 2-3 decades, you will have organic hearts made out of something organic. You understand organic, right? Organic, inorganic.
Yes.
So anything made of carbon is organic, anything made of non-carbon is inorganic. Today, the material that is used to create body parts are all inorganic. Titanium, iron, steel, nickel, blah, 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 blah. But sooner, we will have carbon nanofibers, carbon nanomaterial, which turns out to be organic or matching organic properties. So if body parts are constructed using organic components, the rest of the body cannot differentiate whether it is an artificial equipment or a naturally formed equipment. It cannot differentiate. So you already have become a cyborg. Right? A cyborg is a combination of machine and human.
Machine
In the
and
movies,
humans, yes.
From the movies.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not real yet. But sooner it will become real.
Yet.
So that is with respect to the body parts. Right? We don't know whether I have a naturally formed eye or a synthesized eye, manufactured eye. I cannot differentiate really. And they work perfectly. Yeah. It's not creepy. It's interesting. Think it that way. Right? Think about it that way. Right? So when the body itself is not able to differentiate between itself versus the foreign objects, the organic objects, so at the body level, singularity has happened. The differentiation is gone. More than that, today, AI has already achieved the singularity with you, because most of your questions are being answered by that ChatGPT. You are not asking your teacher. So ChatGPT has become a teacher. So you are not really differentiating between your teacher and a ChatGPT web application. So in that sense, it has already become one. Machines versus humans, it has already become one, right? So in your lifetime, it's definitely going to happen in a big way, but it will not be creepy or scary. It will be so natural, and you will be a part of it. You'll become a part of it.
Okay, I had a question related to this topic. So the sci-fi movies that are there, do they accurately depict the capabilities of AI?
No, these are all vision statements. Consider like it's a business idea with someone's with an amazing vision. See, there were movies from the 90s called it's a bunch of movies like Terminator series, but it portrayed AI in a very negative light. I mean, it said, okay, AI will completely wash off human race. That's how it was portrayed in the 90s and all. But today there are a lot of movies which actually reflect what we are going through, right? So there is a beautiful tele-series in Netflix, but it is not applicable to your age group, so I don't want to recommend it to you yet. But there are a lot of cinema, movie articles and things which are created, which are way ahead of time, right? So there is a series called Black Mirror. Don't see that, it is not your age group. So there is a series called Black Mirror in Netflix. I think it came probably 10-15 years back, and whatever story that is said in Black Mirror 15 years back are all coming real today. So I can only attribute that to the director or the writer. who saw the future and wrote a story about that, and it is happening. So many of the movies which have been published in the past have become real, which I can validate myself. Because when I saw it as a movie, I was so excited, and now I'm actually living through the same movie. Right? And likewise, if you watch some of today's sci-fi movies in your lifetime, you will also see them coming to fruition. So I'm not saying all the movies are good, all the movies are great. Some movies are definitely great. Definitely great, and they are becoming real as we speak. Yeah.
So I had a question. What is a GPU and why is it needed for GenAI?
Sure. So, see, we said generative AI, everything happens, and all these happenings are powered by mathematics. So, if something is mathematically computed, you need power. You need the compute power, correct? So, you can solve a mathematical problem using the general CPUs. So, you have CPUs in a machine.
Yeah.
In your laptops, you have CPUs, the central
Yeah.
processing unit.
Yeah.
Intel, AMD, kind of, or M2, Apple chips. All these are CPUs, right? So the CPUs, the design of CPUs is, it will have multiple processing cores inside. So it can do, let's say, so I showed you, right? My machine had 20 CPUs. I said you that, I said the other day. So it can do 20 calculations parallelly using 20 different cores of the one single chip, right? So, but it cannot do 500 operations parallelly. It cannot do 5,000 operations parallelly. You understand? So, for example, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say there is a sequence of 100 numbers, and there are two such sequences. Each sequence is a 100-sized sequence. In the mathematical world, we call it a vector. Have you heard of this term, vector?
Yes.
You have? So, let's say there are two vectors of 100 size each, and now I want to add these two vectors. So it's an element by element addition. So you have to do 100 computations, right? But the question to you is, let's say if I add the first two elements, the first element of these two vectors versus the seventh element of these two vectors, are they affecting each other?
No.
It's not affecting each other, right?
No.
So which means you can parallelly execute all these 100 computations at the same time. You have the opportunity. Are you with me on that? Are you with me on that?
Yeah.
So if I have a CPU with 20 cores, how many computations can you do in parallel? You can do only 20. So I need 5 steps of these to finish the entire process.
Yeah.
You understand? You understand the idea of parallel computation now?
Yes.
So there are a lot of tasks which can be parallelized, especially in the mathematical world. A lot of tasks that can be parallelized. But the CPU has only few cores to handle this workload. Right? So what people did is in order to solve these problems quicker, they wanted a different hardware with smaller compute power, but many of them. Too many of them. So a CPU's core is very powerful. It can do a lot of complex mathematical calculations. But they envisioned another type of hardware where I will have smaller cores, but thousands of them. So I can use this other hardware to do a vector calculus just like that, right? So this happened to be one of the building blocks of gaming. In the gaming world, the screen is rendering the scene, right? And every pixel there is rendered in parallel. So for that, they introduced this device called graphics processing unit. So you have central processing unit, which is the CPU. And the graphics processing unit, as the name says, was originally invented for rendering videos. But what mathematicians found is, okay, this video is parallelly processed. I am having a vector calculus problem, which is also parallel processing. Can I use that hardware to solve my problem? Bingo. That worked like a charm. So now comes GPU becoming GPGPU, General Purpose Graphics Processing Unit. So these GPGPUs can be used for playing games, can also be used for doing mathematical calculations. So since the AI is powered by mathematics, and that mathematics has a lot of parallel calculations, GPU became the de facto hardware for processing. You get the clarity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, one last question. Yeah?
I was thinking a bit of AI research.
Yeah.
So, like, what are the prospects that I need to learn about pursuing AI research?
See, I would definitely motivate you to take up AI research as one of the line items in your objectives, right? Because unfortunately, the world is divided into two factions today. Two groups. There's a very, very small group which creates AI, and there is a very, very large group which consumes AI. And unfortunately, the smaller group is controlling the larger group. Right? So the group that creates AI is directly and indirectly controlling the group that is consuming AI. So which group do you want to fall in?
The ones creating.
Creating.
So in order to go there, you have to take AI into your method. You have to take that into your stride and start preparing yourself for taking that up as a career or as an auxiliary career, as I said to you. So the way up, the progress that you can make, the building block of AI, as we said already, mathematics, right? So in AI, in artificial intelligence, nothing is magic. Everything is mathematics. So start loving mathematics, and I'm telling you, it will love you back 100 times, right? I'll give you a narrative from my real life. So 25 years back, or around 30 years back, so I was sitting in my professor's cabin. Right, I was waiting for getting some help from him. So at that time, another student of his visited his office, and he was an electrical engineer, and he was asking my professor, why should I focus on mathematics? Why should I study mathematics? And my professor gave a very interesting answer. He said, if you are a mechanical engineer, you can touch and feel the machines. If you are a civil engineer, you can touch and feel the buildings. Right? If you are an electrical engineer, what will you touch and feel? If you touch and feel, you are doomed. Yeah. So you cannot touch it, but you need to understand what is going on there, because it's an invisible world. Electricity is an invisible world. So in order to see things that you cannot see, you need mathematics. So he said, math gives you the eyes to see things that you cannot see with your biological eyes. Did you hear that well? Yeah. So math gives you eyes to see things that you cannot see with your biological eyes. It was not an advice to me. It was an advice to the other person, but I took it very seriously in my life. From that point onwards, I started loving mathematics. I started practicing mathematics. Today, mathematics has become my way of life. I see everything as a mathematical function. I see all of you as vectors and matrices. So if you want to take AI into your stride, start loving mathematics. Right? And the second thing that you have to do is you need to be absolutely fluent in your programming. It can be any language. Language does not matter. Any programming language does not matter. The art of programming only matters. How you solve a problem programmatically. That is all matters. So these two things. One leg is mathematics, another leg is programming. You are covered. Right? Only these two areas you should start focusing on. I mean, I'm not saying you go prepare new things. You just focus on whatever you are studying today, but study with love. You study your mathematics with love. Is programming a part of your curriculum today?
No, sadly.
So that you should pick up in parallel. Right? This is the right age, by the way. Right? So maybe in 10th, 11th and 12th grade, programming will become a part of your curriculum, but you can have a heads up compared to the other kids. Right? Start taking programming into your passion, and start loving mathematics. Learn it with love, and it will love you back. Right? Try to make it the way of life. It will be very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other final questions you have before we say bye bye?
Not really.
No.
Are we good? I mean, did you learn something today?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.